Hello, in this video I am going to explain how to answer the questions in the Edexcel GCSE Maths Paper 2 from November 2019, the Foundation tier. The purpose of this video is for your learning and understanding, not just the answers. There are of course other videos out there. Write these numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. I always think of a number line, so I'm going to start with -8 and just keep on going until you know you've got enough there to help you order. I don't need to go beyond 8. Now I can start with the smallest number, so from the left I can see the smallest one is -7, then -4, then -2, and then 1, and finally 8. You must have all the numbers in the correct order for the 1 mark. Write the number 8,375 correct to the nearest thousand. It's always a good idea to write out the place value headings. So we have thousands, hundreds, tens, and units. Because we are rounding to the nearest thousands, draw a line after the thousands. Because the next digit is 3 and only focus on the 3, we need to round down. If we round down, our answer becomes 8,000. And for 1 mark, all you need to write is 8,000. Write 0.23 as a percentage. Again, if I use place value headings, I have units, tenths, and hundredths. So as a fraction, this is 23 hundredths. But of course, the question does say percentage, so our answer is 23%. And for 1 mark, you only need to say 23%. Find the value of square root 17.64. This question is checking you know how to use your calculator. So find the square root button, then type in 17.64. And when you press equals, the answer should come out as 4.2. And in the mark scheme, all they're looking for is 4.2 for the 1 mark. Find the value of 6 to the power of 5. Again, can you use your calculator? Some people will have a button that looks like this. Some people will have a button that looks like this. And some people will have a button that looks like this. So you would need to type in 6 and then this button and then 5. If you do that, the answer is 7,776. If you do not have this button, that's okay. You can just type in 6 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 6, and again you will get the same answer. There are 14 rows of seats in a cinema. There are 15 seats in each row. A film was shown in the cinema on Saturday. Each ticket for the film cost £6.50. The tickets that were sold cost a total of £1,274. How many tickets were not sold? If every seat was full, then that means all the tickets would have been sold. So total tickets available, and that would be 14 multiplied by 15, and that is 210. Step 2, we need to work out how many tickets were sold. Altogether, the total was 1,274. Each ticket is £6.50, so we need to divide by £6.50, and that is 196. For getting 210 or 196, we would get 1 mark. Step 3, we need to work out how many were not sold. So that is 210, the total available, subtract the number that was sold. And that is our second mark. For getting an answer of 14, we would get our third mark. Harry has 20 sweets. He gives 7 of the sweets to Nadia. What fraction of the 20 sweets does Harry have now? So he gives away 7 sweets. So we need to do 20 subtract 7, and that is 13. And that is our first mark. So what he has left is 13 over 20, and that is our final mark. Here is a number machine. Work out the output when the input is 6. So we have 6, we need to multiply by 8, and that is 48. Then we need to subtract 5, and the answer is 43. If you write 43 and only 43, you will still get the mark. Here is a different number machine. When the input is 17, the output is 10. Complete the number machine. 17 add 13 is 30. So we need to find an operation to go from 30 to 10. You could do subtract 20, and that is a perfectly fine answer, or you could say divide 3. Either answer would get you the 1 mark. Here is a list of numbers. Work out the median. Median is the middle of an ordered list. So order the numbers first. Now we have 1 mark. To find the middle number, cross out from the beginning and the end. We need to find the number that's in between 4 and 6. Just by looking at this, you might know that it's 5, and you would get your second mark. If you don't know this, then we do it the way we do a midpoint. We do 4, add 6, divide by 2. So that is 10 divided by 2, and the answer is still 5. Aisha picks at random one of the numbers. What is the probability that she picks an odd number? We need to work out how many numbers there are in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our denominator is 6, and now we have 1 mark. Now we need to work out which ones are odd. Not 6, not 4, not 8, yes to 9, not 4, yes to 3. There are 2 numbers that are odd, so for writing 2 over 6, we would get our second mark. You do not need to simplify, you can just leave it as 2 over 6. Clara has 5 cards. There is a number on each card. 2 of the numbers are hidden. The mode of the 5 numbers is 3. The mean of the 5 numbers is 5. Work out the 2 numbers that are hidden. Let's start with the mode. Mode means most. So the most popular number or the most common number has to be 3. So that means one of the cards has to be 3 so far. I'm going to write that over here as well. Now I have 1 mark. Let's move on to the mean. Mean is equal to the total divided by the number of numbers, or the number of cards in this instance. Our mean is 5. We don't know the total. The total divided by the 5 numbers, or the 5 cards, gave us the mean of 5. To work out the total, we are going to do the opposite of division. So we will do 5 multiplied by 5, and we get 25. So we know all the numbers added together must be 25. So to work out that last number, we are going to do 25 subtract 3 again, subtract 8, and then subtract 5. That gives us 6 and our second mark. You must have 3 and 6 for 2 marks. Here is the charge at a car park in Spain. John parked his car in this car park. John drove into the car park at 10:45. When he drove out of the car park, he had to pay €8.40. At what time did John drive out of the car park? Let's start with the time and the cost. So we know for 1 minute, John has to pay €0.024. He ended up paying €8.40. If we go backwards, we need to divide by 0.024. If we do the same over here, type that into your calculator and you should get 350. So that means John was there for 350 minutes. That is our first mark. Now I want to convert the minutes into hours. So I'm just going to list out my hours. I know 1 hour is 60 minutes, 2 hours must be 120, and so on. So as we can see, he wasn't there for 6 hours, he was there for 5 hours and some extra minutes. So that must be 5 hours and 50 minutes. So I'll make a note of that. And now we have 2 marks. We need to work out the time at which he drove out. So I'm going to use a number line. He got there at 10:45. And if I add on 5 hours, that is 15:45. If I now add on 15 minutes, that is 16 o'clock or 4 o'clock. 15 add what would make it 50? That would be 35. So add on 35 minutes, and that is 14:35. So our answer is 14:35, and that would get you the final mark. If you want to, you could say 4:35 p.m. You must have the p.m. You can use this graph to change between stones and kilograms. Change 3 stones to kilograms. So we need to go to 3 on the x-axis where it's stones, use a ruler, go up, and then go across. On the y-axis, each little box is equal to 1, so that means the answer is 19 kilograms. It's a 1-mark question. You can do this without drawing on the graph, but I would not advise that. Change 80 kilograms to stones. Notice on the y-axis where it says kilograms, we do not have 80. So we need to use a number that is a factor of 80. I am going to use 40. So before I do anything, I'm going to write my headings. I can use the graph to work out how many stones 40 kilograms is equal to. So get out your ruler, draw a cross from 40, and then very, very accurately go down. Each little box on the x-axis is 0.2. Mine is between 6.2 and 6.4, so it must be 6.3. Now we need to convert 80 kilograms, so I'm going to put 80 over here. 40 multiplied by what is 80? 40 multiplied by 2. Do the same on the other side. Now we have 1 mark. For getting 12.6 stones, we have our second mark. find the number that is exactly halfway between 1/10 and 3/5. Halfway is the same as midpoints. And remember, for midpoints, we need to add the two numbers and then divide by 2. So we need to do 1/10, add 3/5, and that result divided by 2. We now have 1 mark. To do this calculation, you can type it into your calculator using the fraction button. You should get 7/10 divided by 2, and that gives us 7/20, and that is our second mark. On the grid, draw an enlargement of the shaded shape with a scale factor 3. That means each length needs to be multiplied by 3. So if we look at the base is 2 squares. So we need to do 2 multiplied by 3, which is 6. So for our enlargement, it needs to be 6 squares long. And that is 6. Now, if we focus on the vertical, that is also 2. So we need to go 6 squares upwards. Now for the diagonal, we aren't going to go across like this. Instead, what I do is I go across 1, up 3. And because the scale factor is 3, I'm going to do that 3 times. So across 1, up 3, across 1, up 3, and one more time, across 1, up 3. Now, using my ruler, I'm going to join that up. And then I need to join those points up. If I have the exact shape that you can see here, I would get 2 marks. If I have the vertical and the horizontal lengths correct, but not the diagonals, I would get 1 mark. A shop sells compost in 20-litre bags and in 40-litre bags. One day, the shop had 2 special offers for the compost. I'm going to call this one A and this one B. Which offer is the better value for money? You must show how you get your answer. Right, we need to first work out how many litres we're getting using these special offers. Offer A, we can get 2 bags, so 2 lots of 20 litres. That's 40 litres, which costs £3.50. Using offer B, we can get 3 bags, so 3 lots of 40 litres. That means 120 litres at a price of £9. We now have 1 mark. However, we cannot quite see yet which one is better value for money, as the litres are not the same. So using offer A, we've got litres and we've got pounds. 40 litres costs £3.50. I want to make it 120 litres so that I can compare. That means I need to multiply by 3, and that is £10.50. Now I have my second mark. We now need to give a final statement. So I'm going to write B is better value. Remember, always justify. We used 120 litres, so I'm going to say because for 120 litres, £9 is cheaper than £10.50. And that would get me the third mark. The length of a plane is 19.2 meters. Lucas buys a scale model of the plane. The scale of the model is 1 to 24. Work out the length of the scale model of the plane. Give your answer in centimeters. So we have a mixture of units. We first need to convert our units. I've got centimeters and meters. I know 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. We are converting 19.2 meters. If I go downwards, I need to multiply by 19.2. Do the same on the other side. That gives us 19,200. Now we have 1 mark. To work out the length of the scale model, we have model and we have real. Use the scale that they've given us, this 1 to 24. We know 1 centimetre is equal to 24 centimetres. In real life, we have 19,200 centimetres. If I go across, I need to divide by 24. Do the same over here. Now I have 2 marks. Type that into your calculator and you would get 80 centimetres. And now we have 3 marks. Maria invests £4,500 in a savings account for 3 years. The account pays simple interest at a rate of 1.8% per year. Work out the total amount of interest Maria gets by the end of the 3 years. I am going to use a multiplier method. So 1.8%. What is that as a decimal? I need to divide by 100. And that is 0.018. To work out how much Maria would get after 1 year, we need to do 4,500 multiplied by 0.018. But of course the question said 3 years, so multiply that by 3. Now we have 1 mark. The answer then is 243. The question says just the total amount of interest, so the final answer is £243, and that would be 2 marks altogether. ABC is a straight line. AB is equal to BC, which is equal to BD. Angle DAB is equal to 64 degrees. Work out the size of the angle marked X. Give a reason for each stage of your working. I'm going to call this angle 1. Angle 1 is part of an isosceles triangle. That means angle 1 is 64 degrees. Now I'm going to write my reason. So base angles in an isosceles triangle are equal. Now I'm going to work out this angle and label it angle 2. I get 52 degrees, and now I need to write my reason. So angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. I also have 1 mark so far. Now I'm going to label this angle as angle 3. So I get 128 degrees, and my reason So we must say angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. Now I can try and work out angle X. Angle X is part of an isosceles triangle. It's one of the base angles. So I am going to do 180, subtract 128, and divide all of that by 2. Now I have my second mark. That gives me 26 degrees. Now I have my third mark. For my fourth mark, every single stage of working must have a reason. For the last one, I'm going to draw an arrow over here because the reason is the same. Ben is n years old. Chloe is twice as old as Ben. Dan is 5 years younger than Ben. The total of Ben's age, Chloe's age, and Dan's age is t years old. Find a formula for t in terms of n. That means we need t equals something n, and so on. To start with, we know Ben is n. Chloe is twice, so 2 lots of n, so 2n. Dan is 5 years younger than. Younger than means we need to subtract, so it's n subtract 5. For having an expression for all of them, we get 1 mark. Now, because it said total, I'm going to add them all up. N add 2n add n subtract 5. So I've got n, add 2n, which is 3n, add n, which is 4n, and then I've got 4n subtract 5. Now I have 2 marks. Because it said the word formula, for t, we need to say t is equal to 4n subtract 5. And that is our third and final mark. In the table below, put a tick in the box next to the identity. Identity means no matter what value we substitute for the variables, it will always be true. 3h add 2 equals 14 is an equation, and it is only true when h equals 4. 3a add 4b subtract 2c is an expression. There is no equal symbol. A equals pi r squared is a formula. It's the formula for area of a circle. 5m subtract 3m will always equal 2m. This is our identity. No matter what value we substitute for m, this will always be true. X add 7 is less than or equal to 12 is an inequality. It's only true when x is less than or equal to 5. For 1 mark, you just need to put a tick in the fourth box. Here are the ingredients needed to make 16 biscuits. Anna has the following. Work out the greatest number of biscuits Anna can make. To start with, let's work out how much we need for just 1 biscuit. To go from 16 to 1, we need to divide by 16. So I will do that to each one of these ingredients. For the butter, we need 10.9375 grams for 1 biscuit. For sugar, we need 4.6875 grams for 1 biscuit. And flour, we need 15.625 grams for 1 biscuit. For having all of these values, I now have 1 mark. Now let's focus on what Anna has. Let's start with the butter. We are working with the number of biscuits and grams. 1 biscuit requires 10.9375 grams. Anna has 500 grams. If we go backwards, we need to divide by 10.9375. Do the same over here. We get a long decimal answer. I'm just going to say 45.71. Now let's move on to the sugar. Again, we've got biscuits and grams. 1 biscuit requires 4.6875 grams. Anna has 300 grams. If we go backwards, we need to divide by 4.6875. Do the same. That gives us 64 biscuits. Just looking at the butter and the sugar, if we make 64 biscuits, we will not have enough butter. Let's look at the flour. Again, biscuits and grams. One biscuit requires 15.625 grams. Anna has 625 grams. If we go backwards, we need to divide by 15.625. Do the same over here. That gives us 40. Now if I compare butter and flour, if I make 45 biscuits, I won't have enough flour. So I know the maximum number of biscuits that Anna can make is 40. For the second mark, we need to have all of these calculations to see the number of biscuits that can be made. And for the third mark, we need to say 40 biscuits. An estimate of the height h meters of a tall building can be found using the formula h equals 4f add 12, where the building is f floors high. A tall building is 110 floors high. The real height of the building is 442 meters. Seb uses the formula to find an estimate of the height of this building. He then finds the difference between his estimate and the real height. Show that this difference is less than 5%. Step 1, work out the estimate. So we need to do 4 multiplied by 110, add on 12. We now have 1 mark. That gives us 452 meters. We now have 2 marks. Step 2, work out the percentage. We need the difference first, so that is 452 subtract 442. That is 10 meters. We are comparing to the real height, so we need to do 10 over 442 multiplied by 100 to turn it into a percentage. We now have 3 marks. We get 2.26%. Because it said show that this difference is less than 5%, we will now give a statement 2.26% is less than 5%. We will get that last mark providing everything else was correct. The table shows some information about the weights of 50 potatoes. Iveta drew this frequency polygon for the information in the table. The frequency polygon is not fully correct. Write down 2 things that are wrong with the frequency polygon. We can write any 2 of the following. The first one is first point is wrong. It's on 15.8 instead of 15.6. You do need to look quite closely for this one. Another reason is y-axis not labeled. Another reason is first and last point should not be connected. So any 2 of the following, it is 1 mark per reason. The length of a pencil is 128 millimeters, correct to the nearest millimeter. Complete the error interval for the length of the pencil. If it says nearest millimeter, that means nearest whole number, and the smallest whole number is 1. So we're working with 1 millimeter. We need to divide that by 2. That gives us 0.5 millimeters. And to work out the lower bound, we need to do 128 millimeters, subtract 0.5 millimeters, and that gives us 127.5. So we're going to write that over here. Now we have 1 mark. The upper bound, we need to do 128 millimeters, add 0.5 millimeters. That gives us 128.5 millimeters, and we need to write that over here. And now we have our second mark. Tom and Adam have a total of 240 stamps. The ratio of the number of Tom's stamps to the number of Adam's stamps is 3:7. Tom buys some stamps from Adam. The ratio of the number of Tom's stamps to the number of Adam's stamps is now 3:5. How many stamps does Tom buy from Adam? You must show all your working. Step 1, we need to work out how many they have each in the beginning. So we have Tom, Adam, and total. It is 3 parts to 7 parts, which gives us a total of 10 parts. The total number of stamps is 240. I need to multiply 10 by 24 to get 240. Do the same over here and over here. Now we have 1 mark. We end up with 72 to 168. That is our second mark. Step 2, Tom, Adam, and total. We are now going to work out how many they have after their exchange. So the ratio is now 3:5. That's 3 parts to 5 parts, making it 8 parts in total. We still have 240 stamps in total that we're working with. 8 multiplied by 30 is 240. Do the same over here and over here. That gives us 90 and 150. Now we have 3 marks. Step 3, we need to work out how many Tom buys. So he has 72 and he ends up with 90. So 90 subtract 72, and he has bought 18 stamps. And that is our 4th mark. Each person in a fitness club is going to get a free gift. Stan is going to order the gifts. Stan takes a sample of 50 people in the fitness club. He asks each person to tell him the gift they would like. The table shows information about his results. There are 700 people in the fitness club. Work out how many sports bags Stan should order. We are working with sample and population. The sample has 50 people, the population has 700 people. We just need to worry about the sports bag. 17 people chose sports bag. We can now use this to work out how many from the 700 people would want a sports bag. If we go from 50 to 700, we need to multiply by 14. Do the same over here. Now we have 1 mark. The answer is 238, and now we have 2 marks. Remember, a clear method and then the answer. Write down any assumption you made and explain how this could affect your answer. For 1 mark, we would need to write all of the following. So our assumption is sample is representative. That is the key word. Our explanation is otherwise Stan may need more or less sports bags. Here are 6 graphs. Write down the letter of the graph that could have the equation y equals x cubed. X cubed is a cubic graph, so we're looking at B or F. Y equals x cubed only has one turning point. That means it can only be graph F. Now we have 1 mark. Y equals 1 over x is a reciprocal graph, so it could be C or D. Y equals 1 over x is positive, meaning it cannot be graph C. That means it is graph D. And now we have our second mark. The nth term of a sequence is 2n squared subtract 1. The nth term of a different sequence is 40 subtract n squared. Show that there is only one number that is in both of these sequences. Show that means show all your method. So I'm going to generate 2n squared subtract 1. I need to do 2 multiplied by 1 squared subtract 1, 2 multiplied by 2 squared subtract 1, and I'm going to keep on going until I have 6 terms. I end up with 1, 7, 17, 31, 49, and 71. I now have 1 mark. Moving on to the next sequence, we need to do 40 subtract 1 squared, 40 subtract 2 squared, and again I'm going to keep on going until I have 6 terms. That gives us 39, 36, 31, 24, 15, and 4. Now I have a second mark. For the third mark, I need to say that this first one is getting bigger and that this one is getting smaller. So only 31 is in both. And you should see that over here and over here. Work out the following. Give your answer in standard form. Most calculators have a standard form button. It's usually along the bottom of the calculator. It looks like this. So to type this calculation in, we would write, or rather type 3.42, then the standard form button, and then -7, not subtract 7. There should be a negative button on your calculator. Then type divide, and then 7.5, and again the standard form button, and again negative, not subtract, -6. Type that into your calculator and you should get 0.0456. Now we have 1 mark. Standard form is always a multiplied by 10 to the power of n. Remember, a has to be between 1 and 10. So we need to move the decimal point 2 spaces. That means we have 4.56 times 10 to the -2. It is -2 because the number is smaller than 1. And now we have our second mark. The number of days D that it will take to build a house is given by D equals 720 over n, where n is the number of workers used each day. Ali's company will take 40 days to build the house. Haley's company will take 30 days to build the house. Haley's company will have to use more workers each day than Ali's company. How many more? Before we start, because we need the number of workers, I'm going to rearrange the formula. So I have N is equal to 720 over D. Now let's work out how many workers Ali needs. So N is equal to 720 divided by the number of days, so divided by 40, and that is 18. Moving on to Haley. N is equal to 720 divided by the number of days, so 30, and that gets us 24. For having 18 or 24, you would get 1 mark. Now, to work out the difference, 24 subtract 18, we would get a second mark, and then for writing 6, we would get the third mark. The diagram shows a cube and a cuboid. The total surface area of the cube is equal to the total surface area of the cuboid. Janet says the volume of the cube is equal to the volume of the cuboid. Is Janet correct? You must show how you get your answer. We only have dimensions for the cuboid. So let's start with the cuboid. We need to work out the surface area. For surface area, we need to work out the area of each face and then add it all up. So we have this front face. This front face is going to be the same as the back. That means we have 8 multiplied by 6 for one of them, and then multiplied by 2 for both of them, and that is 96. We also have this right-hand side over here, which would be the same as the left-hand side. So we've got the side and the other side, and that would be 18 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 2, and that is 216. We also have this top face. The top face will be the same as the bottom face. So top and bottom, that is 18 multiplied by 8 multiplied by 2. That gives us 288. We now have 1 mark. The surface area is all of them added up. 96 add 216 add 288. That gives us 600 square centimeters. We now have 2 marks. We also need to work out the volume. Volume is cross-section area multiplied by length. I'm going to say the cross-section is the yellow face. So 8 multiplied by 6, and then the length is 18. That is 864 cubic centimeters. Now let's move on to the cube. We don't have any dimensions for the cube, so I'm going to call each length x. Remember, a cube has all lengths the same, and each face is a square. We have 6 squares for the surface area, so we have 6 lots of x squared. The surface area is the same as the cuboid, so it's equal to 600. Now I'm going to divide by 6. So x squared must be 100. That means x is the square root of 100, and x is 10 centimeters. Now I have a third mark. The volume of the cube is the same, cross-section area multiplied by length. Cross-section in this case would be 10 multiplied by 10, and then the length is also 10. That gives us 1000 cubic centimeters. Now we have our fourth mark. We now need to say whether or not Janet is correct. Janet is wrong. And now we need to justify. So Janet is wrong because 1000 is not the same as 864. There is our fifth mark. Here are two column vectors. On the grid below, draw and label the vector A subtract 2b. So we have A, which is 5, 2, subtract 2 lots of 3, negative 1. That gives us 5 subtract 6 and 2 subtract negative 2. We now have 1 mark. We end up with negative 1, 4. We now have 2 marks. We need to now draw this. You can start anywhere. I'm going to start over here. Because it says negative 1, I need to go to the left by 1. And then the 4 means I need to go up by 4. So I need to draw a line that joins up my start to the end. You must also draw an arrow to show the direction, and that is the 3rd mark. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.